Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, April 29th, 2016, the WNW 236. The economy is doing terrible. As a matter of fact, it's rotten to the core, just like Apple reports first drop in iPhone sales in 10 years. Now, I know this isn't the end of the world, folks. But this is a warning sign, trouble ahead in the economy. And you tie this with the announcement a couple of weeks ago of Intel laying off 11% of its worldwide workforce, 12,000 jobs. Those aren't floor sweepers. Those aren't people making $750 an hour. And there are plenty of other signs that show that things are bad. Now, sure. Facebook, had a good run there, and Amazon, Jeff Bezos made $6 billion or something like that. They don't make anything. Apple makes something, and Intel makes something, chip maker, and they're laying off. And Apple's having a hard time selling its premier iPhone product. Now they got some new ones in the pipeline. Is that going to make up for it? Other big problems in the economy and other bad news shows that no home sales are down. Housing starts quarter over quarter contracted, down. Manufacturing numbers from the Dallas Fed, down. Consumer sentiment numbers from the University of Michigan, down. Spending, down. Retail, down. And GDP came in at just 0.5%. Not down. Not up much. 0.5%. That's the best they could make that look. John Williams of Shadowstats.com, who was a guest this week, said, they're going to have a positive number. They'll make it positive. But when we have a revision, it's going to be revised down. He thinks we're already in or soon to be in a recession, and this next revision might even go negative. I mean, it's 0.5%. Things are not going well at all. And people like Bo Polney and Greg Mannarino both called the top in the stock market. Mannarino called the top in the stock market back in May of 2015. Polney called the top in the S&P in July of 2015. Both of these guys I talked to this week, and they said, we're coming to a point where you can no longer hide the phony, terrible, imploding economy. They were coming to that point. They also both agree that this is the top in the markets. This is it. I mean, it's rolling over right here and now, and both of them tell me that their highs are going to hold. A very interesting fact about Bo Polney. He calls me up on Wednesday and says, "Hey, Greg, I just got to tell you, tomorrow, that's Thursday, I think gold's going to go up about $20. Bing, bing, bing. Going up to $22. Pony says that the charts for gold and silver, particularly next week, are strong charts for gold and silver going up from here, and that the dollar is going to be weaker, and the markets are going to be weaker, and gold and silver are going much higher. Don't you think that's amazing that both these guys come to the same conclusion, that that's harder to hide the fraud? That the markets have topped out and they're rolling over, and it's harder to hide the fraud. Well, you know what? When you can't hide and you can't convince people of your con anymore, then your con is exposed for what it is, a Ponzi scheme. That's what the economy is. Being exposed for the Ponzi scheme it is. And, if the markets are rolling over, here's a headline from Zero Head this past week. And but this is the longest uninterrupted selling streak in history. Smart Money sells stocks for a record 13 consecutive weeks. Smart Money, that's insider money. These are the same insiders with the low volume that had basically pushed the market up by, buying back their own stocks. And now, according to Zero Hedge, 13 weeks of sell. 13 weeks of selling. And add that to the news about Saudi Arabia threatening the United States by selling $750 billion worth of Treasury bonds. I couldn't believe Josh Earnest came out, the White House press secretary, and said, well, it could implode the system. $750 billion of treasuries implode the system. Well, add that to the idea that, Saudi Arabia is upset with the United States for cutting this Iran no-deal deal. Really upset. I mean, we're giving them, $100 billion or $150 billion, whatever number. I keep hearing both these numbers, but they're upset. And they're cutting oil deals with China. You think they might accept yuan for their oil to China? that China would pay them in yuan. For the first time also this week, Russia has its own oil market. It no longer has to price oil in dollars. It's opened up its own market and it's selling oil without dollars. There's a lot of dollars they're not going to need anymore. This is pretty big news, I am talking with Alistair McLeod. He'll be the early Sunday release coming up, and he talks all about the prospects of gold and silver, oil, and what he thought went on in this meeting. Remember that meeting we had with the president, vice president, Janet Yellen, and all these emergency meetings, impromptu Fed meetings? He'll give his take on that. Alistair McLeod of goldmoney.com will be the early Sunday release. Also, on the war front, President Obama was in Europe recently, and he basically, the reports are that he basically asked the Europeans and NATO to get ready in case we have a conflict with Russia, if we have to, address Russian aggression. They're wanting them to get their Air Force and militaries ready. We're adding men and equipment. The U.S. just added a couple of F-22 Raptors to Romania. Russia's not happy that we're building up a significant war posture on their western borders. Meanwhile, the relations between the U.S. and Russia couldn't be any worse. I mean, you have Vladimir Putin and Russian fighters, basically doing real close flyovers over U.S. Navy vessels. Also, Russian fighters within 50 feet of U.S. surveillance aircraft, supposedly in international skies. Lots of threats going back and forth. Things are not good between the U.S. And Russia. Maybe it's because of the Middle East and that basically Obama was embarrassed there. Now the president is now sending 250 more boots on the ground, 250 more troops, which is 500 boots on the ground. He's sending that to the Middle East. And remember when his policy was no boots on the ground? Well, not so much. That's going horrible. What is the foreign policy? What is Obama's foreign policy? Who knows? They had this Iran no-deal deal, as I told you about. And what we have now is, in a very strange twist of irony, you have the supreme leader complaining that the sanctions were only lifted on paper, that the Iranians aren't really getting the deals they want to get done through the banking system. And they're complaining that there's no real deal in place, that they only lifted the sanctions on paper. Well, again, nothing was signed according to the Kerry State Department. This is the deal which was supposed to curtail Iran's nuclear program. Maybe this is, the United States isn't lifting these sanctions on paper because they're upset that they're working on a ballistic missile program, but that wasn't in the deal. That was a UN separate thing. And so, the Iranians and the supreme leader complaining that there's no, they're not moving fast enough. Well, this is what you get when nobody signs anything and you have a no-deal deal. Next up, I want to talk about the unfairness in the media. I just want to kind of go through this quick. This is Tuesday now. This is the paper doing its reporting, which is supposed to be fair and unbiased. So they got a picture of Hillary and Donald, the front runner. Okay, here's the headline. 40% of GOP doubt they'd vote for Trump. That's the headline. Thought shaping. Don't vote for Trump. 40% of you won't vote for Trump. Well, isn't about half the people not voting for Hillary? They're voting for Bernie Sanders. Isn't that what's going on? About half the people? Let me read a quote out of the article here. Just want to read this one thing that some of the Republican leaders, amid alarm about the billionaires, cut off-the-cuff policy and positions and provocations and rhetoric. People upset about his provocations and rhetoric. Well, not a word in here about the FBI investigation on this Super Tuesday, they call it 3.0, where Trump wins every county in every state. Not a word in here about Hillary Clinton, who is under FBI investigation for a private server that she had installed in her house that was unprotected. That was a major national security threat. And you're going to write about his off-the-cuff policies and rhetoric, and you're not going to mention a bona fide FBI investigation. Of course, you're trashing Trump on the day of an election. And you don't even mention of a legitimate FBI investigation for an unprotected private server. And my opinion, why she had it was so she could enrich herself and do favors for people for donations to the Clinton Foundation. But they don't even mention that. It's outrageous. And here's another one here, Gannett, who owns USA Today. And they're going to spend $815 million to pay for Tribune Publishing. They're buying old media. And frankly, I hope they choke on it. But we believe Tribune shares Gannett's unwavering commitment to journalism and excellent delivering superior content on all platforms. What's that? Thought shaping, liberal biased, unfair, unobjective reporting. That you think that they? I hope they don't share that, because that's exactly, in my opinion, what Gannett does. And here's another, anything they can do to, highlight somebody who's losing. Here is him with Carly Fiorina. I mean, this is like Jeb Bush saying, well, there may be a contested convention, and I'm going to make John Boehner my vice president. I mean, what? I mean, this is a fantasy. This is like in an alternate universe. This is my vice presidential pick on something I'll never win. And then we have Donald Trump and his doctrine, below the fold, and don't speak softly. His doctrine is don't speak softly. That's one take on it. Here's another unflattering take on it from an AP story in my local News and Fish Wrap, another liberal rag, thought-shaping rap. Trump's America First foreign policy is not clear. I think it's very clear. I think it's clear enough to get the German foreign minister to criticize Donald Trump. I think it's really clear. We're going to put our country first. I think that's clear. But yet, anything that the mainstream press can do to trash Donald Trump and leave out major glaring facts. Listen, I think Donald Trump will cream Hillary Clinton if she is not indicted. I don't think she can win. She's doing terrible with women. Terrible. And I'm sorry, women aren't that stupid. They're not stupid to vote just for her just because she's a woman. And she's had all these breaches, and every time there was some sort of happening with her sexual predator husband, Bill, she would destroy women. She would destroy any woman that blew the whistle on Bill Clinton. The term bimbo eruption, who did that come from? Hillary Clinton. And she's going to be a champion for women? And she spent most of her career when Bill Clinton was president destroying women? And when he was governor, she spent most of her time destroying any woman that would blow the whistle on him? Outrageous. One of the main things, though, that scares the heck out of the Democrats is this poll that happened at the first year. And I want to bring it up again. 20%. It's a legitimate poll. A lot of the news outlets, talked about it. That they asked Democrats who they would vote for, and 20% of them said, I'd vote for Trump, that they wouldn't vote for Hillary. And think about all the Bernie Sanders voters. That was another thing in the article that they had. They talked about how, well, Hillary, Bernie Sanders did get, young people energized. Yeah, why? Who, what, when, where, why? And what did the Bernie Sanders voters say because they didn't trust Hillary? They thought Hillary was bought and paid for from Wall Street? Yeah, left that out too. I mean, if you're going to trash a candidate, you're going to have two candidates on, bring out the negatives in both. And I think that an ongoing FBI criminal investigation is worthy of mentioning on a Super Tuesday, where 5 states primaries are being held, and yet you take the time to bring up, his off-the-cuff rhetoric has Republicans worried and 40% won't vote for him. Well, a lot of people won't vote for Hillary Clinton either. And one last thing I wanted to bring up. This is a Telegraph story. Talking, they have a video of this about when talking about all the people with abortions. They want to say, well, it's not life until the baby takes its breath and it's life and all that. Well, not according to New Science. And this was in the Telegraph UK. And they say that they actually have it on film, on video, where the sperm hits the egg, and that's the moment of conception. And there's this flash of light. You guys should go on and take a look at it. It's unbelievable. The science is going to open up a brand new round of the question, when does life begin? And apparently, on this video, when the sperm hits the egg, poop, and there's this flash of light, that's when life begins. Like when it says in the Bible, let there be light, when they had creation of the universe and everybody thought that was crazy. And then they came out, not so long ago with the Big Bang Theory, like let there be light. Well, here we have, scientific proof of the moment in a flash of light when life begins. I think that's very interesting. You guys should Google it, look it up. It's a Telegraph UK story. So look it up. Anyway, that's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and donations. That helps us out. Remember, fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, and above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father is in charge.